So as you guys know, the Admirals are some of my favorite characters in the series of One Piece, and the Marines in general are a hot topic that I like discussing. Now, what we always talk about is that most of the other Marines, aside from the well-known, well-established Admirals, notable Vice Admirals like Garp and Saru, and of course the Fleet Admirals at a given time, are usually pretty fodder. But we have an interesting situation here where we actually have two characters that have been disclosed as Admiral candidates, meaning that they had to possess the power to at least be considered for the position, meaning they cannot be as fodder as all these other Vice Admirals that we've seen in the series thus far. With that said, serious questions could be made given that Admiral is a power rank, literally one of the only power ranks in One Piece, considering that Yonko really isn't a power rank either. Given that Buggy became a Yonko, you just have to fit a criteria. You have to have influence, territory, all these resources to be given that distinction. Admiral has to maintain a position in which you are one of the three strongest active Marines. You are one of the three protectors of the Celestial Dragons directly at their beck and call, and you are the official strongest fighting force of the Navy. Therefore, anybody considered for this position has to at least reach this benchmark of being stronger than all the other Marines in the organization. Obviously, there's some exceptions. But if you want to stretch that even further, if Gion is considered to be an Admiral candidate, it means that she should at least be in the ballpark of Green Bull and Fujitora. Now, if you want to argue that Fujitora and Green Bull should be stronger than Big Mom or are stronger than Big Mom, you could make some serious claims that Gion could be the strongest girl in One Piece. And that's a pretty crazy thing to say, but I'd love to see it if it was the case, and hopefully we get more information about her later on down the line as far as active combat goes. We do have some more information that I did want to talk about for her and for Chaton, the other Admiral candidate, that I think is pretty interesting. So Gion is based off of the actress Michio Kogura. I probably butchered that name, but this is what she looks like. And she is basically somebody in the verse that uses her beauty to her advantage. She is known to lure pirates in with her beauty and gets them in all sorts of trouble where she's able to capture them. She's also somebody that has a great relationship with Saru, as they have a sister-like dynamic, where Saru is of course like the older sister, but Oda doesn't specify Gion's age, alluding to the fact that she might be older than she looks. With that said, we also find out that she wields a Meito blade known as Kanpira. Although it is ungraded for now, this could be a plot point later on if we ever find out the grade of the blade. It also makes me think, I wonder if her and Tashigi have some kind of relationship, because Tashigi is also very interested in swords. She obviously has the dream that she wants to capture all the Supreme Grade blades, which might be actually the craziest dream in all of One Piece, with the highest degree of difficulty given the character wielding that dream. But I doubt that Gion is in possession of one of the Supreme Grade blades, but it is a Meito. So I assume that they've at least had some dialogue about it, or maybe we'll get that in the future. Next, we have Chaton, who is known as the Brown Pig, and he has this really cool design where he has a really unique Admiral jacket where it has like this pattern on it, which is for a reason. It's because he's based on the actor Kiyoshi Atsume, who wears a very similar outfit in some of his movies, and he looks just like him. It's a striking resemblance. Now, with that said, Chaton actually had not only Admiral candidacy in the verse, but he had Admiral candidacy as far as Oda was concerned when writing the story as well, as Oda actually had plans at one point to make the new Admirals, post time skip, represent the pig and the Kappa being something of a turtle. That idea was seemingly dropped completely, as it was going to match the monkey, pig, and Kappa trio from Journey to the West, but later turned into the monkey, tiger, and bull. And there's an actual reason for this, but Oda isn't disclosing that yet, so that could lead to a really cool revelation later. Now, the Kappa idea seems to have been completely scrapped, as we don't have anybody representing a Kappa in the Marines as of now, but maybe Oda just went on to make Kawamatsu, who's calling himself a Kappa, this person, so maybe this Admiral was gonna resemble Kawamatsu. If that's the case, I'm glad we didn't get that choice. But the fact that Chaton had early designs in Oda's sketchbook and seems to have been considered is a really cool detail. Now, of course, it also could have just been a situation where maybe Fujitora, the initial idea for Fujitora was just to make him Chaton or Brown Pig, or take the pig naming scheme, because that's why Oda might be saying that Chaton and Fujitora are really close. He adds that little detail. Regardless, I think that this is a really interesting fact. Now, another point that caught my attention that Oda mentions is that Chaton is an outcast among the Navy, but civilians like him for some reason. This again also seems to align with Fujitora, who strikes me as an outcast within the Navy. And again, if civilians like him, he's probably somebody with a pretty high sense of morality, although maybe it's just a ruse. But I could see that being why Fuji and Chaton get along. We also have found out that Chaton has a weakness for pretty women, similar to Sanji, and he's asked out Gion over 100 times to no avail and's been rejected every single time. No details given about his fighting style, but both he and Gion do make an appearance in chapter 907 of the manga, in which they are shown with Garp and some of the other Marines as the news about Kaido and Big Mom's potential alliance is basically ringing through the Marine halls at the reverie, as Gion runs in and says, "Oh, come on now, Garpy. They're squabbling over your grandson, Straw Hat Luffy. It's no laughing matter," as Garp was laughing, calling it hilarious. And she says, "You're just going to sit back and watch as 2 of the 4 emperors meet." And Garp's like, "Why do you act like I have a choice in this? It's the reverie right now. Any force capable of stopping them is dedicated to protecting the royalty." And then Chaton chimes in and says, "Pardon the interruption, ma'am, but this is Big Mom we're talking about. She's already taken all that into account about the forces not being able to go intercept them. What's Mr. Sakazuki saying?" And she says, "He said the land of Wano is not a member of the world government, is outside our jurisdiction." Garp again laughed and said, "Which is exactly what I figured. It's best not to get involved for now." So I like this scene because it's obviously the first time that these characters have ever been revealed. Oda did show them in a filler movie, film Gold, briefly, but this was their first canon appearance in the actual manga. But it shows that they both have a friendly relationship with Garp, and Chaton is very laid back. It doesn't seem too concerned with the prospect of the new formation of the Rocks Pirates. Now Gion, on the other hand, is very concerned, and she is also lamenting Garp for not going to potentially protect his grandson, or potentially go stop what could be a travesty of Big Mom and Kaido teaming back up. So I like that scene a lot, and I hope we get more on these characters in the future. I'd love to see them actually get some fights, because anytime we need a stronger Marine character, it doesn't have to be an admiral. I like the idea of there being some strong vice admirals out there, because it balances things out a lot better. I actually came up with the idea where, when we were trying to come up with ideas for who the Egghead matchups were going to be, when obviously Kizaru was going to be Luffy's opponent, I thought if you wanted to give Zoro an opponent and you wanted to make it legitimate from the Marines, you could just come up with a new Vice Admiral and say, hey, this Vice Admiral was also a candidate for the Admiral position. And you could do that a lot to give somebody a good fight with some kind of credibility. Like, obviously they're a tier below the Admirals, but they're going to be stronger than your average Vice Admiral. So I think that these guys could be used in that kind of capacity, and I'd actually like to see it. But let me know what you guys think about these two characters. Do you like their designs? Do you like the idea of them potentially being fights for some of the Straw Hats going forward, or some other characters in the verse? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.